Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This time we are going to discuss impression question. Impression question is part of question number 2, use of language task, and it deals with the writer's use of language, how the writer is using language effectively and how the writer's attitude or use of language is influencing the reader. This question is usually question 2D or 2C in your use of language task. Question number 2 of P1. So question is, this is from specimen paper. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? So sometimes, or it's not sometimes, it's always that some students, they feel it really very difficult to take out impressions. Anything that they are reading, it becomes difficult for them that how should they come up with correct impressions from a sentence. Now necessarily this is not the case that or every time you have just two impressions in a text. Maybe you have 4, 5, 6, 7 impressions in a text, and you can conveniently take out only two that are understandable for you. Now look at this question, that the part of text, the sentence that has been taken from the text, it is written here. This question carries 2 marks. They have asked you for 2 impressions, so you need to write your impressions very clearly. Now first thing is, usually when I advise my students that how they should go for impression writing, so first thing is that divide your question in 2 parts. Now if I have to write the impression here, I will divide this question in 2 parts. This is one part for me, and this one, that is second part for me. So while choosing 2 impressions, I'm going to dissect these 2 different parts and will try to take out 2 impressions for them. Now look at the first one. There was foliage everywhere. So if you know, and I hope you know, that foliage means greenery. Foliage means some kind of greenness that leaves create. If you don't know the meaning of foliage, the next word is telling us above, below, and on all sides. Next, they have written layer upon layers of leaves. If you don't understand the word foliage, this is telling you that there was foliage everywhere, above, below, and on all sides, layer upon layer of leaves. So word leaves is telling you here that here in the first part they are talking about leaves. So there was foliage everywhere, above, below, and on all sides. What does that mean? What is the impression that writer is trying to create from this line? Or even if I add if you don't understand the word foliage, the word leaves is going to convey the meaning for you. So the candidate has written the leaves completely surround him. That is the first impression, and you will get your marks for this one impression. You got 1 mark for this. The leaves completely surround him. Leaves basically is greenness, foliage. Though he had leaves on all sides and he was surrounded by leaves, this conveys the meaning that he was inside the tree and leaves were all around him. Now the second impression. Second impression is that layer upon layers, that can go with the first one also, like tents within tents. Layer upon layers of leaves, like tents within tents. What is the meaning of that? The student has written there is no way out, it's completely green. Now if we talk about this one, it's completely green. This is a part of this explanation. First impression, the leaves completely surround him, it's completely green. That is one impression. Anything that you are going to write about the greenery, that will be considered one impression, because you have already written that the leaves completely surround him. Foliage means green, so it's completely green. That is one impression, whether you have written this sentence here and you have written it earlier. So you are going to get 1 mark for this. Now as far as second impression is concerned, the student has written there is no way out, because there are layers upon layers, there are leaves like tents within tents. So if you want to write there's no way out is not enough to give the impression. Basically the writer is trying to tell the space inside is so closely knit together that the leaves are, or the branches are closely knit together, that you do not get space to get out of that place. It is a kind of a complex place. It is a kind of a place where leaves are creating that kind of layer that for a person it becomes really impossible to get out of that place. So just there's no way out is not conveying the complete meaning. So if you're writing because the place is complex, it is like a maze. You can use word maze here also, the one that we have discussed earlier. So it's like a maze. It has tense within tense. Do not write tense within tense in your explanation. So things are so complexly joined together, they are close together, that a person cannot find its way out and you are lost somewhere inside. In this way you will get marks. Only for this you are not going to get marks. Now look at the explanation from the examiner. So this was question 2C. This answer shows understanding of being totally surrounded by greenery or leaves. That is bullet 1 in mark scheme. But no way out needs more careful explanation to evidence understanding of the description layer upon layer or the image of tent within tents. So just by writing one line, that is no way out, your meaning is not clear. That's why if no way out is correct, but this is vague, it needs more explanation. So that you can explain that there were tents within tents or there were layers upon layers. Basically you have to talk about the complexity of that structure. The structure of the tree was so complex because of those layers of leaves that a person, or it was impossible for a person to find his way out. Then you might have got your answer. Now next one. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in this sentence? And so I learnt the subtle art of more complex water ices, sorbety, in which the syrups themselves were frozen, transforming magically to mounds of glittering crystals, and sherbets, the most difficult and enchanting of all, expertly infused with fragrant cardamom and resembling frozen snow. If I read this, I can find many different impressions here. Let's give it a try. So I learned the subtle art of, so one thing that one impression is he's trying to give us is I learned the subtle art of more complex water ices. One thing that he has learned some kind of skill where he can make more complex or different kinds of ices. One thing that is sorbety. Then second thing is that he can the most difficult and enchanting of all, expertly infused. This is also giving an expression, expertly infused with fragrant cardamom. That first he learned the art of complex waters, and after that he also learned another thing, and that was that how to infuse, how to put aroma or fragrance of cardamom or any kind of fragrance in that ice crystals, in that frozen snow. So basically there are, I think we can find more than that also. Now what the student has written, that the writer was learning more and more about the beautiful complex water ices, one thing, and that he was most amazed by how expertly everything was made. I don't know what's written there. Everything was made most careful details. Everything was made I think. Everything was made with most careful details. So he has come up with these answers. Now what is the mark scheme saying? The candidate provides two correct impressions, recognizing that the vocabulary in the extract suggests the beauty of the ices and that they are made with most careful details, evident in the detailed description of their construction. Each correct impression is awarded 1 mark. So this is not just one impression that we can get here. There are 5-6 impressions that are available here. if we read the mark scheme, see whether I've written it or not. No, I think I don't have the mark scheme right now here. You can just check it in the mark scheme. So what is he trying to say in this sentence? Yes. Now, so question is what the writer the impressions were, if we have to choose impressions for ourselves here. First thing was that he was learning, or he has learned more complex things. He was learning new things daily, and he had learned new things, and that is evidently clearly written in first line. So I learned the subtle art of complex water ices. Then after that he is writing this, that the most difficult and enchanting, expertly infused with in cardamom and resembling. If you read the mark scheme now, you will find that all these impressions are available there. You can just take them out. That first he learned the art of complex water ices. Secondly, he also learned how to expertly infuse or put water or put smell or aroma inside those that frozen snow. There was one thing, and there was another thing also, that he was learning careful details of how to write these things. So I learned subtle art of more complex water ices. So this way you can find in one extract, in one paragraph that is given there, you can find 5 to 6 different impressions. There's no need to be scared of this kind of question. Just try to give yourself some time, read them, and try to come up with as many impressions as possible, and then go for two most important. If I had to write this, I would have written that, so I learned the art of complex water ices, that first one, and you will explain this, and second one, that I expertly infuse the aroma into those ices. These are the two impressions that he is trying to give us from there. Now next line, next sentence. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? Splashes of water erupted in all directions, and then we slumped forward, went under and pulled ourselves through the swirling green, quiet veil of bubbles. So when you read this, you need to come up with two impressions. First impression that I get here is from the word erupted. Now erupted is the word that is used for volcanoes. When something is erupting, that means that thing shows eruption, shows violence, eruption shows intensity of something. So word erupted here, when splashes of water erupting, that means there is a lot of activity, things are going in a frenzy, things are quick and happening very quickly, and in a violent way also, in all directions. And then we slumped forward, that they were slumped forward also. This is also is giving us an impression that they, without anything, because there was a lot of activity, and they continue to move forward, went under, pulled ourselves through the swirling green quiet. And this the second part, that is explaining what kind of beauty they saw. Went under and pulled ourselves through the swirling green. So when they went under, they saw this kind of green quiet veil of bubbles. So this second part is telling us about the beauty of the bed of sea, and it is telling us how the world is beautiful under sea. So you will read this and you will come up with your impressions after reading this. So that is the mark scheme of this splashes of water erupted. So there are different impressions available. See, from word eruption and splashes of water erupted in all directions, that shows that there was noise, there was chaos, there was a kind of activity, water going everywhere like explosions, a volcano. See, I told you this, volcano. Fall heavily into water, slump forward, that means that shows force, energy, strength, whirling, ripping. These are almost 6 impressions that you can find there. So you just have to write 2: whirling and ripping water, calm, no noise underwater. When we are talking about the life underwater, so this was that, and pulled ourselves through the swirling green, quiet. This word quiet is giving us the impression that on the surface of the sea it was quite noisy, but when we went under it was quiet. So word quiet is also giving another expression. And no noise underwater, other worldly delicacy of beauty. And this part, this veil of bubbles or swirling green, this is telling us that how beautiful the life is underwater, or how beautiful the area or the place is underwater. So there are different kind of impressions available. You just need to understand them and then come up with two most appropriate impressions that you think are very that are present there, and not just present there, they are the most effective ones also. So you are going to choose two such expressions, two such impressions that in your opinion are the most effective ones. Okay, next line now. See, what two impressions does this is from the examiner comments. This question required candidates to give two impressions, two different ideas drawn from anywhere in the extract. Above could score. Successful responses avoided generalization, listing terminology, repeating words from the text, and explaining the narrative. If you take words from the word, like if you are going to explain the word erupted, or you are talking about the impression of quiet, if you are talking about the impression of slumping forward, any such impression, and you are using those words from the text, that means it is very difficult to get marks, because you are generalizing things from there and you are copying the words from the text. So you don't have to repeat the words, you don't have to repeat the terminology, you don't have to write the words from the narrative or the text. Basically you will have to explain the impression. One impression offered in a number of successful responses was the chaos or water going everywhere, that is splashes of water erupted in all directions. This is the first impression that most of the students, they went for this impression. That was quite evident in the first line. Splashes of water erupted in all directions. That shows lots of activity also. Was the chaos or the water going everywhere. Other impressions included the energy shown by the swimmers from pulled ourselves, or the calm silence from the quiet bubbles. The best responses noted the contrast between the noise above the water and the lack of noise below. See, this is the thing that you have to see. First thing is splashes of water erupted in all directions. This is life is quite busy on the surface of the sea. Whereas when you pull yourself towards the bed of the water or bed of the sea, you will see that the life is swirling green, quiet veil of bubbles. So basically the writer is trying to give an impression that life on the surface of the water and underwater, these are two totally different worlds. So these were the best responses, noted the contrast between the noise above water and lack of noise below. I think I remember there were many students when you had attempted this in one of your long assessments, I guess. So there were a few students, or I don't know, few students, or there were a number of students who wrote this comparison, that life under sea was quiet, the life under sea was in contrast to the activity above, it was calm. So you can definitely find such impressions. The best responses noted the contrast between noise above water and the lack of noise below. There was some misinterpretation of the swirling green as dirty water and the splashes as evidence of swimmer fighting for space in an attempt to win the race. So definitely that is not the impression that the writer is trying to give. That's why you cannot get marks for that. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader about the puma in the sentence? But then her long tail whips, and I glimpse the only parts of her that stand out, her eyes as green as the paddle-shaped plants surrounding us, and her nose pink as the tip of the sunset. Different impressions are available here. First thing is her long tail whips. That tells how alert the animal is. If her tail is whipping, if her tail is kind of in a situation or in a condition that it whips it, that means the animal is alert. I glimpse the only part of her stand out that the only part of her that stand out, and that was, and the different parts of her body, her eyes, her as green as. So basically the writer is comparing puma's eyes to plants. Here the writer is trying to tell us that how beautiful that animal is. The eyes are being compared to plants, and the nose is pink, and her nose is being compared as the tip of a sunset. So these are different expressions, impressions that the writer is trying to create. Now let's see the mark scheme. Here we have six possible impressions. First impression is sudden and unpredictable movement of the tail, whipping of the tail. Whip suggests power, violence, danger, frightening, seen briefly, mysterious. So word whips is very important. That the way the animal is moving its tail, whipping its tail, that shows energy, force, power, violence, and the mood of the animal. That is also available there. Then seen briefly or as mysterious also. Only parts of her that eye glimpse. Seen briefly is the eye glimpse. That means I just have a look at that. I do not see that for a longer period of time, but I just get a glimpse. That means I have seen the animal. I see the animal very briefly for just a few seconds. Next is vivid, striking colors, bright green, pink of eyes, nose colors contrast with darkness, can only see eyes, nose colors. Part of nature, the jungle is wild, doesn't belong in a cage. Eyes, nose, she is beautiful, captivating, amazing, unique, and striking. So basically, different kind of expressions are being used by the writer to convey that the animal is beautiful, eyes, nose, while he is comparing them to sunset, plants, and all that of things. So different, you see, this is not the case that no impressions are available and it is difficult for you to understand or take out impressions. Rather, the part of the text that is given there, it is full of impressions. You just need to take out 2 out of them. So you can easily do that. Have a look at this. 2 different ideas drawn from anywhere in the extract above could score. Successful responses avoided repeating the words in the extract. So that's why I have taken these extract from the examiner report. That tells us that if you take words from the extract and write them, like if you are writing that her nose was as pink as the tip of a sunset, you won't get marks. This is not the way to get marks. So for example, you don't have to repeat words or take words from that. For example, the extract tells us that the puma's eyes and nose are the colors of plants and sunset respectively. Perceptive responses recognize that these are both the images of nature, which she is a part of the nature. So instead of writing that her nose is as pink as the tip of the sunset, she is trying to tell that she is a part of the nature, or she belongs in the jungle, not in the cage. Less secure responses simply repeated the words. Her nose is pink as like a sunset. You have no marks for that. Without an analysis of their effect, many responses correctly recognize that these images also created an impression of beauty, and that the puma was magnificent and captivating. So basically, when you are talking about her eyes, when you are talking about her nose, you are talking about her beauty. So these are also quite successful answers. Candidates need to focus on individual words in the extract. Like I told you the word whip is here, the word I glimpse is here, then the word is her eyes are here, surrounding us plants, and this is the whole sentence, that nose and eyes are being compared to something. So you need to look for, candidates need to focus on individual words in the extract. The impression of a puma which is fierce or dangerous is suggested by the comparison of the tail to a whip, while the word glimpse gives the impression that the puma is seen briefly and is mysterious. While it is useful to consider the extract in the context, some responses refer to the preceding sentence. The puma is hard to spot, or preceding, that means it is not written in the text but it is written in the previous part of the text that is not mentioned here. So you can go to that to understand this line completely. The puma is hard to spot or difficult to see in the shadows are not impressions created by the specified extract. So some students, what did they do? Instead of taking out impressions from the given extract, they just went back to the previous one and they came out with the impressions from that. You have to take out impressions from the given sentences only. You cannot bring forward something from the previous or the later part of the text. The puma is done. The impressions created in the extract in the question is that her features are prominent, or that her eyes and nose are brightly colored and noticeable against her dark fur. So these are different kind of expression. You think about it, pay attention to the individual words. Like in the previous question, the word was erupt. In this, it is whips. Here you have the comparison of the beauty of the animal. So you need to look for words and then explain those words if you know the connotation of these words. What actually whipping of the tail means, what actually glimpse means. So for that, definitely you need to come up with the understanding of the whole text and understanding of these words also. That's for all. That's all for now, and we are done with impression question. And the final thing about impression question is that in a question, in that extract, sometimes 5 to 6 impressions are available. You need to underline some such words that are that have specific meanings, that are very clearly seen there, and underline them and then think about those words and choose only 2 impressions that in your opinion are the most important ones, and then write the explanation of that one word or that one thing that you have chosen in your own words with the help of the context. That's all for now. Allah Hafiz.